Hello, this is Jay Spillers, and welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. My special guest is Kris Carriere. Kris, introduce yourself.
Hi there, I'm Kris Carriere. I'm a Rapid Transformational Therapist, and I can change your life using hypnosis.
Okay. Well, before we start, how would you define hypnosis? What is hypnosis?
Well, it's certainly not the stage stuff you're seeing when you see somebody go on stage and turn you into a chicken or something like that. Yes, we can get your mind to that stage, but we're not going to ask you to turn into a chicken because it's therapy here. And you have to know that your mind only does what you want it to do. So there is no hypnotist on the planet who can make you do things that you don't want to do. So if you're going to go on stage and behave like a chicken, it's because you actually went to that show wanting to be the chicken on the stage, right?
Yeah.
That's why they were able to hypnotize you. You'll see sometimes how they throw some people off the stage and they say, oh, that guy can't be done. It's because that guy's not willing to go into the role.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to allow yourself to go there. If you're going to fight it and not allow yourself in, then hypnosis won't work. That being said, there are some people who are exceptionally susceptible so that you can come in and just quickly, but again, those are the same people who want you to control them. So if you don't want someone to do something, if you don't want to give me your banking information, you'd never give me your banking information. So it's not that sort of thing. What we do is we get you to that state of trance it's kind of like watching television. When you get home from work, you're real tired, you sit in front of that TV, you zone out, you're no longer hearing the dogs, the parents, the family, the whatever is around you, all you hear is that TV. That's basically where we get you, except for I'm the TV. And so all you're hearing is me as I speak to you. That's what you're going to be zoned into, is me and my words. Yeah.
Yeah, and
so it's not, you're not going to go anywhere. We're going to awaken your conscious mind.
Yeah. And yeah, I was going to ask about that because a lot of people think that, well, once you're hypnotized, you're totally under the control of the other person, and they can make you do whatever they want. Like if they say go rob a bank, you'll go rob a bank, and that's not how it works. They're open to suggestion, but they're still in control.
They're open to suggestion. Yes, you are always in control. Like, we're only bringing you into a light state of trance. I mean, when you go to a psychotherapist, they will bring you into deeper states whereby they are going deeper and you are now out of the zone, right? But I don't do that. I'm not bringing you there because I need to talk to you and I need you to understand and have a conversation with me. So it's very, very light state of trance where we're bringing people, and it's very relaxing, and it just allows your subconscious mind to open up and start bringing you the answers you want and need, the ones that have been stuck inside of you and hidden, those answers. That's what we're looking for, and that's what we're just going to release by getting you into that state of trance.
And I think a lot of people have a picture of hypnosis when you watch the old movies or the cartoons, like when the professor hypnotized Gilligan, he'd have the watch going back and forth. And I went to hypnotherapist like 2008, and I was like, well, where's your watch? But you probably don't even use a watch in your practice.
No, I don't. In fact, what I do is I just get people to look up into their own eyebrows or to like a spot on the ceiling or something like that and hold that spot. If they have a hard time, on my website, I have an eye, like it's a little thing, and it's a hypnotic eye kind of thing. Just focus on that, and that will get you to go back. So it's just really, and it's only for 3 to 5 seconds, or deep breath in, deep breath out, deep breath in for 3 successions, and then you close your eyes down. So it's really not that long, and it's the words. Once your eyes are up, once you start blinking, when your eyes are up, rolled up, that's you going into a state of hypnosis. So it's just very much the same as you sitting in front of that TV, relaxing, and you're trying to stay awake and your eyes are kind of blinking and you're there, but not there. You're actually hypnotizing yourself in that moment by blinking your eyes. And so when we ask you to look up, your eyes start to blink, and that's where the hypnosis starts. So then that's when we just get you to close your eyes, and I count you down a flight of stairs or whatever it is that I want to do, induction, and we get you to where you want to go. And so it's different for some people. Some people have a hard time relaxing. to get there. So they're not able to visualize. I'm not a visualizer. I can't see sweet bugger all. Not like when I was first getting hypnotized, it was black. It was black. I saw nothing. Like they say, picture yourself walking down a flight of 10 steps, blah, blah, blah. I saw no steps. And then I would be like, why is she walking so slow? You know, in my mind and stuff like that. And yet I still became hypnotized. So even though I'm self-talking during her thing, she still got me to the end where she was able to get my subconscious mind to come up with the memory or the vision or the idea of whatever it was that we were asking the question of, right? So hypnosis and going down into the induction is different for everybody. Some people go straight in. I had one gentleman who started snoring even before I hit the 5th step, right? And I thought, oh my gosh, he's gone, right? So, but he wasn't. He was actually not sleeping. He was hypnotized, because when I said on the count of 3, 2, 1, your eyes open, and boom, he was like forcing his eyes. He was like pulling them open, trying to get them to open. So he was really down. I've never gotten that deep, but some people do. It's just different for everybody, right?
And what is the difference and what is the similarities between hypnosis and meditation? Because they seem kind of similar. What are the differences?
Yes and no. So meditation, it's you basically putting yourself in a zone, right? Now you're not in a state of, well, I guess you're kind of in a state of trance. You can go into a state of trance whilst you're meditating. It's just difficult for a lot of people to do it themselves, you know, because of the self-talk, because of whatever's going on in their brain that they can't shut off. It's hard for people to meditate. And I know when I first started, I would get so angry. I'm like, who do I punch right now to get this frustration out? Because I couldn't release my mind to meditate. But hypnosis is a bit different in the way that you have somebody guiding you and helping you, and basically commanding your brain to do something. You know, so I'm commanding your eyes to no longer open. They're stuck, they're sealed, they're locked shut. That's what I'm doing. I'm telling them this. Whereas in meditation, there's no commanding. You're visualizing, you're letting go. It's a bit different in that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like if you have a guided meditation, is the focus in meditation and hypnosis a bit different? Because someone had said meditation is more about just sort of relaxing and being at peace, whereas hypnosis is more of we're trying to get to a certain issue, whether it's emotional or a habit or whatever, and we're trying to help you get over something. Is that sort of a main difference too?
Yeah. So with what I'm doing, we're going in to actually get to the root cause of your issue. Whereas meditation, you're pulling it off like an onion. You're pulling it off layer by layer, gently, easily, so you can understand each and every single layer. With what I'm doing, we're ripping that onion right freaking open and going right into the center of it to figure out the entire problem of all of those layers. So it's really quick. It's done like that. So when I say quick, it's like 3 hours. It takes 3 hours. So it's not really like lickety split, right? But it's much quicker than the meditation. Like what I can do in 3 hours, it would likely take someone, you know, a year or two to get to that stage and ability in meditation to get to that understanding. Not everybody, some may go quicker, some may take longer, but in general, to get to that state where we're going to get you, where we get that understanding and that quickness of understanding, because really what we're doing is I bring you back, I regress you, we talk, and we find 3 to 5 scenes of the presenting issue. So let's say you ask, you know, where did the depression begin, or why am I always depressed, whatever. So we'll go back to the 5 scenes, 3 to 5 scenes in your mind, and it goes back to the original scenes that caused that depression in your life. It could go back as far as when you were 2 years old. We don't know where it starts, right? It just keeps regressing backwards. So that's the difference. So we go and we open it. And then what happens is once your mind is open and it starts releasing stuff, what happens is over the next week or so, your mind starts going over that timeline. It goes over whilst you're sleeping, during the day when you have time to think. it's going to start reviewing stuff. And it's going to be reviewing all of the crap you don't want to be dealing with. You didn't want to, like the stuff you run from, all that stress we're pushing down into our belly. That's what it's going to start reviewing. And it's going to start releasing it. But it has to first look at it in order to release it. And so I don't know that meditation does that, right? But the hypnosis does. And so that whatever was causing your depression, it'll go over the entire timeline of your life and release all of those memories, those thoughts, those habits, whatever is going on, so that you can move forward. And that's the difference. Now that does cause, nightmares in some people, maybe some stress or anger, that sort of thing, for about a week. So it's about fighting through that. But if you can fight through that, and we're always there for everybody during that week, right? So if you can get yourself through that, you're going to be okay. Everything just starts to shift and change after that. But first, your mind has to release all the garbage that is stuck down there first. And so I'm not sure, because I've never gotten that far with my meditations. I meditate every morning. I get to the point where I get the vibrations in my body. I can feel energy being drawn from the universe, but I've never actually come to understandings of why I am the way I am. And so I don't know what it's for you. You tell me.
Well, so, I mean, in terms of like hypnosis, to get the rapid results, you probably have to be live with the person. It might be virtual, but you have to be live, I would think, because you have to
have somebody there.
Yeah, you have to have the specific things you're asking them or directing them. Whereas like if you had a recording of a hypnosis session, or you had a recording of a guided meditation, it would be sort of generalized, but it couldn't be specifically to you.
Well, exactly. That's just it. Like, yes, I give also those audio recordings, just like the one you left on my site. I also give away those types of recordings to people to help, and they do help, right? The guided meditation helps people to get into the frame of mind they need to be in. Now, what it does is that's just a temporary fix, right? Because it's just sort of shifting you a little bit, but your mind loves what's familiar. It absolutely adores what's familiar. So it's always going to shift back to what it knew, what was familiar to it, right? Until you implant a new habit. But the new habit won't take as long as you haven't figured out the core issue of the old habit that you're trying to release, right? If you don't understand the core reason why things are starting or things happened in your life, why you behave a certain way, if you don't understand why, you can't change it. You'll always just go back to that habit because your mind loves what's familiar. So the important part of what I do with Rapid Transformational Therapy is we go straight to that core issue so that there is understanding. And then we turn it around in your mind. We help you to see the truth, because you understand, like between the ages of 0 and 7, that's when we come up with most of the idea of who we're going to be as human beings. I don't know if you knew that. But we decide by 7 years old, we've already made a decision at, if we're going to be a successful person, if we're going to be a frightened person, if we're going to be a strong hero type of a person. We've already made that decision. That's your first personality, is decided by 7. But you have to understand there's a whole pile of events that happened between 0 and 7 that caused those decisions in your mind, right? And sometimes those events are what are stunting us from going forward. So you kind of have to go back and figure out and understand why you made the decisions you made in your life so that you can change them all for yourself. And we can do that all in the 3-hour session. Now, that being said, does one session fix all? No. I don't want to lay claims that one session is going to fix all. Most of my clients need only 1 to 2. I always offer 3 because and we always do one issue per session. So if you're coming in with depression, anxiety, anger, fertility issues, whatever, I'm only going to fix one thing at a time. Now, that being said, if I fixed your anger issues, then that might fix your depression, that might fix your anxiety, that might fix everything else, like a domino effect, wouldn't it? So that's the idea. Is we do bring people in for 3 sessions just to make sure. And by the 3rd session, I usually do a 3rd session for success, because by 1 and 2, they're already tackled the main issues that they need to tackle. And so by the third session, we just go right into success. So you get life success, you get business success, you get whatever it is you're striving for in your life. That's where I just implant all of those ideas in your mind. You tell me what you're learning, you tell me what you need to know, and I'm going to tell your brain it already knows it. And then that's what we implant into you in that last session, so that you just go on with your life and just start thriving. So that's really the goal of what I do. So I just want to get to the root of people's issues and make sure it's dealt with and it's gone. And I can promise you that it works. I had, for like most of my life, I had some serious anger issues because of really crappy events that happened coming up to who I am now, right? So I was the type of person who never dealt with my stuff. I just shoved it right down inside and let the anger fester. I was that girl. I don't know have you ever met those people?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's not good. It's not a healthy place to be. I actually made myself very sick. I got Crohn's disease because of it. And that's very much an emotional disease. That's somebody with Crohn's disease is someone who shoves down their pain, shoves down their anger, and just lets it fester. That's what we do. So I had to deal with all that stuff in my sessions. And I tell you what, I thought it was going to take forever. And the girl I did it with was in fact a student when she did it. We were doing each other's final exams on each other. And so I had her do anger for me for her final exam. And I tell you what, it took almost right away. It started to little increments of change. I could feel I was waking up with anger anymore. I was feeling lighter. I wasn't reacting as much, but it took a full 3 months before I noticed the full effect of that one session. And that's all it took was one. And I'm a different woman today, right? So it's amazing how good it works. Like do I get mad? I still get mad at people. Like, I'm not going to lie. I still get mad. Everybody will, but it's not that same raging roar that comes out anymore. You know what I mean? Now I kind of think myself through before I speak. And I try not to get angry. I try to be understanding and reason myself out of the first 3 things I want to say and then say the third thing, right? So, whereas I couldn't do that before. I couldn't. It was always the first thing I wanted to say was coming out of my mouth. And of course, the first thing you want to say for someone like me is never the right thing. So I've now learned to hold my thoughts, wait till the third one, hold my anger. And I did that all with one session of hypnotherapy or rapid transformational therapy. So,
well, so it is sort of like you get results right away, but it's kind of like planting a tree that over time, the tree's going to get bigger and bigger. So you're sort of planting a seed too.
Thank you. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a perfect analogy because you're planting the seed that day, the day of the session, that 3-hour session. That's where we plant that seed. And then it just starts sprouting and growing over the next weeks and months and days. And that's exactly what happens. So it's not like, for some people, don't get me wrong, for some people, they come in and immediately, even in fact, for me, when I did a study one, because I was having, I'm a woman of a particular age. I'm 40, almost 48 next month or 2 months from now. So I had a hard time studying. Like, what? A person in their 40s trying to go back to school is like, holy crap, that's hard, right? So I used Rapid Transformational Therapy, and the very next day I opened the books or my computer, because this is the new age. I opened my computer, and guess what? I knew everything all of a sudden. It was like I had already learned it all. And I actually excelled and graduated in what was supposed to be a year's course, dragged it down, right? Like, I don't have to do that. So I was ready to finish the graduation after 4 months. I completed the whole course. The only thing that held me back from graduating was that I had to actually go out and do sessions and a bunch of practice. And that, of course, takes time. But the actual coursework itself, I zipped through it. It was so easy to me all of a sudden. Whereas prior to that session, it was like reading Chinese for me. It was not settling in my brain at all. It didn't make sense. So yeah, it just depends on what you're coming in for too. If you've had a lot of stress or a lot of trauma in your life, it may not work right away because you have to go through the release portion of things first. And the release portion is that week of nightmares, that week of stress, that week of reviewing everything and letting it go. Right. And so that's where it doesn't happen right away, because you have to go through the crap before you get to the great stuff.
Well, and I was thinking there is probably another difference
I know I
between,
keep nodding my head after
yeah,
every time.
well, I think there's another difference probably between like hypnosis and hypnotherapy and like a guided meditation, because I think from the person that's the client, obviously they're more active because they're involved and engaged. You're probably asking them questions, or they have to, you know, give you answers. Whereas guided meditation is more passive, you know, so that's probably another difference there between the two.
Right. And guided meditation is about changing your mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this hypnosis therapy is about changing your life. It's about going back and changing the events of your life so that you can not changing them, but changing your understanding of the events of your life so that you can move forward. Changing your perception of your responsibility. You know how some children believe that everything's their fault? Well, that leads you right into adulthood. If your parents were fighting a lot when you were a child and you took that on yourself, that affects you now. So these are the sorts of things we go back and do. And I don't know that guided meditation will do that. It will help you be like, yes, I am wonderful. I'm terrific. You know, I have superpowers, or whatever it is you want your meditation to say. That's what mine would say. I'm just saying that's what mine would say. So whatever it is, it's different, because that's what we do at the last half. Your guided meditation is what we use on the last 21 days. So the session itself is to rid yourself or to understand the issues. And then we make a guided meditation with their transformation at the last part of their session, the last 20 minutes, half hours, we make that guided meditation. And then for the next 21 days, we want them to listen to that so that their brain forms the habit, the new habit of what they want. So that's what we do. So what you do would be incorporated with what I do. It would be on the last portion of it. So we need each other to do it, basically.
Well, and so what is the, like, I've heard of neuro-linguistic programming, which is NLP. Tony Robbins uses a lot of that. And then someone came and created what you do, the Rapid Transformational Therapy, which is an improvement upon it. Yeah. But what is each thing, and what do they do? Like, and how do they differ from each other? NLP and the RTT.
Okay, so NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And now, so we are using that within the RTT, and that's where we use certain words in sequences, certain power words, right? And we'll use them in sequences, and your brain will pick it up and it'll remember. And those are the command words. Those are those sorts of things. And Tony does that too. And you'll hear it a lot within his, when he's talking to, he does use certain specific programming words so that your brain picks it up, your brain understands. And that's neuro-linguistic programming. So they're using words to program your mind. That's what we do in basically hypnotherapy. All hypnotherapy does that. So cognitive behavioral therapy is now where they go in and they're understanding, I believe, where they're understanding, you know, how we interpret our behavior, what's going on, all of these sorts of things. So they all match. You need a little bit of everything. We need the psychotherapy to understand, you know, the dark ends of the brain as well within this. So when you come to the rapid transformational therapy, we're going through about 6 or 7, maybe even more, sometimes depends on who I'm talking to, but 6 or 7 different areas. And so one would be called, you know, the child in the room. One would be called discussion with the herder, you know, these sorts of things. These are different kinds of programs that we're doing within that one session that help you get to each individual part of your brain and all these functions. So we will be using the neuro-linguistic programming throughout the entire thing. Cognitive behavior therapy, of course, we have to understand how a human behaves. The hypnotherapy, that's the timeline therapy that we start using. We're not doing it in the same way of the timeline therapy that they do, because ours is done in quick succession, but we are going back. So we are going back to 5 scenes. Those 5 scenes are within your timeline. The difference between what the hypnotherapy does with the timeline, they're going to take a year or 3 months or whatever it is to go through your timeline. Whereas us, we just go to 5 scenes and then we let your brain do the rest over the next week. So that's a bit different that way. So it's just kind of the way Marissa Peer is her name, the woman who invented all this, the way she kind of put everything together is that we get to use all the best of everything and we get to understand the human behavior. And she put it all into one so that you can easily get that brain to work the way you want it to work, and release the stuff, the toxic stuff that's sitting inside that we need to release in order to move forward, because that's what's stopping a lot of us. Some of us have no problem going forth because we don't have a pre-programmed belief set in our mind. Their programming from childhood was probably fantastic, that they could do anything and they could accomplish anything and this, that, and the other. And mine was not, mine was not that programming. I had to change it for myself. I don't know. So they're all needed. I believe one is not enough. You need to incorporate everything in order to get the full understanding of the human being. And that's why I really like the rapid transformational therapy, is because it does incorporate all those 4 things: the neuro-linguistic programming, the cognitive behavior, the psychotherapy, the hypnotherapy. It's combining everything, and you need a little bit of everything to get the full understanding. And I think that's why Marissa's been so successful with her program, and that's why I'm succeeding with my program, and that's why it's changed my life. Nothing has ever changed me before, because I'm one of the stubborn ones. I will fight you on making that change in my brain. I'm that girl, I'm like, no. In fact, when I was in my session, she said, are you ready? Are you ready to let that go? Picture it in your mind as this, whatever it was, the person who hurt me, walking away with the balloon. And I, in my mind, I was chasing the balloon going, no, that's my stress. Bring it back. I want my stress. Bring it to me. Right. I just wanted to hang on. So I'm that girl, but I was able to let it all go with rapid transformational therapy. And that's the amazing part for me. So I would venture to say that rapid transformational therapy works for the stubborn folks out there. It's going to work for the stubborn folks. Those who say they can't be hypnotized, I call BS on that one. I call BS. I can get you in there, and I can fix it. I can help.
Yeah, well, that's kind of interesting.
Have you ever been hypnotized?
Yeah, I went to a hypnotherapist several years ago, 2008, and was working through procrastination. Nice. But that is interesting about, like you said, the different archetypes, because like I've heard Tony Robbins say, picture yourself as a king or a queen, picture yourself as the warrior, the lover, and he had some others, So I guess it's sort of using archetypes to connect people to different parts of their life, and then putting it together. And that's NLP.
Yeah. That, I believe that is NLP, what he's doing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he also used the Erickson method. So I'm not very familiar with exactly what that is, but he uses the Erickson method, which is a lot of repetitive stuff and the yeses and all of that stuff that he says. So because the Erickson method is hypnotizing someone without realizing they're hypnotized. That's what he does. So everyone in his crowd is actually hypnotized.
Well, he always gets you all worked up, and he's like, stand up and go, yes. And the people are getting all excited.
He's fantastic at what he does. Yeah. And that's part of it. Even in a sporting arena, same idea. They're kind of hypnotizing you into the raw of it all, the way Tony is doing with his crowd. It's the same idea. And I venture that's what's going on. People want that kind of camaraderie as well, right? So that's why Tony's doing so well, and he's so brilliant. Let's be realistic. That man's brilliant at what he does. So I can only hope to follow in his footsteps and be on stage with him one day. So,
well, in terms of, I think, and you said in terms of what you do, you work more at the subconscious or unconscious level? Because I think like if you went to a typical psychological therapist, they would be talking to you at a conscious level. And like you said, that could take years to really see any results. Whereas yours is like, let's go deep and just get right there.
And let's get right in there, right? But to be fair, your conscious mind knows jack F all. I'm sorry, I'm a tough kind of gal. I kind of have this language, but your conscious mind really knows nothing. I was speaking, many of my clients, in fact, including myself, we go into the session thinking we know exactly what the problem is, why we're facing these issues. Like, oh, it must have been because my dad beat me up, or it must have been because my husband was so, mean to me, or it must have been because whatever. And it turns out none of those things were the issue. It was because your teacher yelled at you in grade 1 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's really not what you think it is that's still traumatizing you to this day. I had a client who came in who couldn't stop crying, just couldn't stop crying, but she didn't know why she was crying. So when we regressed her, because she had a perfect life, this woman, she had a perfect life, loving and adoring parents, never was shouted at, never was spanked, never did anything wrong, straight A student, perfect child, that girl, but she had this sadness, she was crying. And it turns out when we regressed her, it was because when she was 2 or 3, she ran out into the street after something and almost got hit by a vehicle. And the state of panic within her and her parents put her in a fight or flight mode, and she never left that fight or flight mode, stuck in it her whole life. We fixed that in our session, but that's why. And she had no idea. So our conscious mind really doesn't know why we're suffering or why we're punishing ourselves or any of these things. We think we know, but your conscious mind doesn't really know. That's why it does take so long. And that's why some people don't find healing in other forms of therapy, in that talk therapy version. They won't find it there. And you'll find a lot of people will find healing with Tony, but it's not long lasting. And so that's why they have to keep going back to see Tony to get that feeling, that joy, because he didn't get to the root of the issue. He just gave them the tools they need to move forward. Well, that's great. But if you didn't fix the issue, how are you going to go forward, right? So that's why they keep having to go back. With this, we go right to the root of that issue. And that way we figure it out fast and it's gone. And I guess we all need each other in that way. So once you're done with me, you need Tony to keep you moving, right?
Well, do people have to be open to wanting to change? Like, and do people have to have some level of belief or faith in what you're doing? Like, if someone is just a total skeptic, they think it's bunk, can you still help them, or do they have to have some openness to it?
Yes. Okay, well, that's a yes and a no answer, because I have hypnotized some, actual gang members, some really tough characters. Like, you can't effing hypnotize me. Really? Now let's see about that. And within 15 minutes, they were bawling and they were under hypnosis and they were saying everything. And that same person who said, I've never hugged anybody, asked me to give me a hug at the end of that session. So yes, we can get everybody in. Now, that being said, if you're someone who's exceptionally stressed and like your whole body is just like that, I would like to prime you for 2 weeks with one of your meditation CDs, or see how old I am? I said CD, one of your meditation audios, and we're aging ourselves, right? One of your meditation audios, and then prime them for 2 weeks with that so they can relax, and then bring them into the session. And then it's easier, because otherwise they're just going to fight me every second trying to go in, and it won't work. So that's the only ones that I can't do. If somebody comes in wanting the session, wanting to heal, wanting the answers, they're going to get their answers. They're going to get it. Yeah. It's just the stress level. That's the one that can prevent it. So we just prime them for a couple of weeks with an audio.
So do you think most physical ailments are connected to emotional trauma? Because you talked about like Crohn's disease. You think like a lot of cancers are connected to emotional traumas and things like that going on?
Again, yes and no answer, right? Yes and no. Like, I have multiple sclerosis. I believe that's either from toxic stuff within our soils that's producing our food, right? Or it's from the geese pattern, but it's certainly not my fault. But Crohn's disease is an emotional illness. And so that's somebody who's got a lot of stress who swallows it. And it's eating up your gut, right? And your gut's where you hold your emotions down there. So it depends on what's going on. Some cancers, yeah, cancer is, we all have cancer in our body, but what activates it, right? What activates it is being in a constant state of stress and anger and in that fight or flight mode. That's what mostly activates it. Also, what's going on around us, our food, our environment, these sorts of things. So it's a little bit of everything, right? It just depends on the individual. Now, I'm not saying all illnesses are caused by us. What I am saying is that we make them worse. We make them worse with our minds, right? So example, every person I know, myself included, when I first got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I was getting seizures and everything like that, but I could walk, I was fine. Then I got diagnosed, went on the medications, and within a month I was paralyzed. Within a year I was blind, stuff like this. So is that me? Is that whatever? No. But I made it worse because I went into that poor me syndrome in my head. Oh, poor me, I'm going to die now. I'm broken. I'm not worth it anymore. I gave up. I stopped fighting. And that's when I got sicker. So our mind can make us sicker, but did it make me sick originally with the MS? No, it did not. I was born with that bad boy, right? I've been showing symptoms since the day I was born. So no, but I did make it worse when I found out about it because my mind went into, oh, I'm over. It's over now. Oh Lord, it's all over. I went and dramatized my whole thing and it got worse. So.
I mean, so does everything just come down to perspective? Because I've been kind of thinking about that a lot, is that you can have two people in the same situation and one person has all the hope and another person has depression and stress and negative attitudes. Is it a matter of changing their paradigm and how they view themselves and the world around them?
100%. Your frame of mind will determine how sick you get. Your frame of mind will determine how healthy you are, right? So when you're in a sick frame of mind, have you ever seen the study on plants? Okay. They did a study where they put some plants in one room and some other plants in both raised to the same level, both healthy, whatever. But in one room, they talked to the plants with such hate and anger, and they played like angry, heavy music. And it was just a very angry room. And in the other one, it was very nurturing and loving and peaceful. And they went and gave it love, and they talked to their plants as they watered them. Guess which plant grew better?
The one that was loved and talked to kindly.
Can you tell me which plant?
Yeah.
The one that had the love. So if you're talking to yourself with hate, what's going to happen to you?
It's going to bring you down.
Very down, very down. And so that's what happened, right? That's what happens to us when we self-hate, when we do that negative talk to ourselves, when we say we can't, we're actually killing ourselves. And your mind is going to bring you to where you want to be. So if you say to yourself all the time, oh, this work is killing me, it's too much, I can't handle it, this, that, and the other. Do you know how quickly you're going to get sick? Your mind will give you exactly what you want. You're telling your mind you need a break. It's too much. It'll give you the break. It'll give you 5 days in bed so you can have that rest. Go be sick now. Go be sick. Your brain will do that for you. It loves you that much. So we have to understand what we tell our mind is listening to you. It's listening and it's trying its best to help you in the only way it knows how. So if you're giving it love, you're telling yourself, you know what, I could do this. I'm good. I just have to pivot. What I'm doing might not be working. I just have to pivot. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means what I'm doing isn't right. Pivot, right? Be good to yourself. Be loving. If you can do that, you're going to grow like a nice, healthy plant. And the music we listen to matters too, because we have to understand the lyrics within that music is repetitive in our mind. So what the lyrics are saying, your brain is hearing. It's listening. So if you're hearing a lot of stuff that are like bitches and hoes, or talking about, violence, or talking about, self-hate or anarchy or any of those things, you're or cheating or have, any of this stuff, your brain is picking it up. Your brain is picking it up. So I don't want to say that we all have to just go and listen to, all that loving stuff, or just Baroque music or whatever. But we do need to be very careful about what we listen to repetitively, what we watch on television repetitively. Our brain is listening, and it's going to try to rewire your body, your subconscious mind, everything, to work towards what it thinks you want. And so whatever you put repetitively, your mind's going to think you want it. So you got to be very careful about that sort of stuff too, right?
Yeah, and a lot
Even
of
when you
people.
walk around and, let your friend, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, and a lot of people can't even watch the news because it just brings them down too much. So they don't even watch the news and certain
Yeah.
movies and things like that. So
I don't.
yeah.
Yep. I stopped because I realized when I used to actually be a reporter, and I realized that the news made me more angry than anything else. And it did affect my mood, because what you are seeing is repetitive, nasty stories. And then one good one at the very end to make you feel good as you leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yay. Yeah, it's not a good feeling. Like, yes, you do need to understand. So I only watch the first 10 minutes of local news. I'm not watching the rest of that stuff that's really, really heavy. And now, that being said, mine is Canadian local news. I've
Mm-hmm.
watched the first 10 minutes of American local news, and holy moly, that's devastating. So it's whatever, whatever you watch repetitively is gonna affect you.
Yeah, I don't know, and maybe there's a difference too, because like in rural areas, like in Montana, the local news is usually like about sports or different activities, and it's pretty mild,
Right?
you know.
That's the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the good stuff. Then you watch New York news or something, you're like, what the heck's
Yeah.
happening there? Like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, and I'm small town Winnipeg, Canada, right? So we don't
Mm-hmm.
even have 1 million people in my town. So our news is very basic. Yes, we're the murder capital of Canada, but we only have 19 murders a year. So, and that's Canada's murder capital, you know? So what does that say? We don't have bad news. Our news is, there were a lot of car crashes today because the weather was bad, and, that sort of thing. The sporting team won this event. And so it's safe to watch our news a little bit more, right? But yeah,
Well, you
just
kind of
depends on
wonder.
what news you're watching, I guess. I wouldn't watch CNN or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, you kind of wonder too, is like you were talking about like how Tony can hypnotize. Does the news kind of do that? Because like when things happen in March
Mhm.
and all of a
It
sudden the
does.
buzzword was pandemic, and then they say it like several times during a news broadcast, the pandemic, pandemic, pandemic. And you kind of wonder, is that hypnotizing people to just accept that we're in a
Absolutely,
pandemic, whether we
100%.
are or not, you know?
Thank you. Yes, 100%. The news media, television, movies, music, it's all been using hypnosis, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's all been using all of this cognitive behavior. It uses that within its grasp to get the people in, right? The news does it all the time. You hear the same words. They will send out a news feed to all the same stations, all the stations around wherever the world or their area or whatever the case. They're all reading the exact same scripts, the exact same words, and you'll see it. If you switch from station to station, it's the exact same thing happening on each station. Why do you think they do that? They need you to believe their narrative. And if they repeat it over and over and over, and that's all you're watching is that particular news station, and you're hearing it over and over and over, guess what you're going to start believing? Whatever being heard repetitively. So it's like that. They do it at school when you're learning. What do? They teach you by repeating things over and over and over. It's the same thing. If you want to learn something, you have to repeat it, right? So ask yourself, why are the news people repeating the same words, the same thing over and over again?
So I guess if people don't watch the news,
Programming.
they're not being programmed in the narrative. So when you talk to someone that is watching the news, you look sort of like an oddball because you're not indoctrinated into a narrative.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you can tell those who do watch the news because you can hear the tag phrases that are coming out of their mouth. They'll start saying things like, we're all in this together, stuff like that. You're like, you watch the news a lot, don't you? Right?
Mhm.
They're saying the taglines that the news stations are saying. So yeah, it's happening. But it's been like this for, like, it's not new. It's not something new. If you remember back when we had drive-in movie theaters, they actually, in my town, I don't know if it ever happened in yours, but we got busted for subliminal messaging within there, where when they had the beginning of the movie, you used to have a popcorn cartoon coming up with a hot dog and all this stuff dancing and telling you to go to the check stand to buy stuff, right? But behind the scenes, they would have subliminal messages flashing, telling you, get a hot dog, get a hot dog, get a hot dog, get a hot dog, right? And so you go and buy the darn hot dog. And that's basically what's, they've been doing it since TV was invented. So every single station you watch, every TV show you watch, everything you do, music, everything, TV, movies, it's all got programming in it, all of it.
Well, so
Yeah.
with what you do,
It's kind of scary.
yeah. So with what you do, is it possible to sort of deprogram yourself and say, I'm going to program in what I want to program in, and hopefully it's something, you know,
Yeah.
positive and good, but you know, to just say, I'm going to direct myself, you know, as opposed to someone else putting something in that I may not want.
And that's the beauty of it, is that it allows you to take control of your mind. Rapid Transformational Therapy makes it so that you are in control of everything, because now you're the superhero of your story, right? So, and that's the beautiful part, is if you don't control yourself, if you don't self-hypnotize, and you don't need me to self-hypnotize if you want to self-hypnotize yourself out of something like that, right? Out of whatever you're watching on TV and stuff like that. You could do that yourself. I have videos on my website that can teach you how to do that. Now, if you want to hypnotize yourself out of these things, it's important that you I don't know, how do I say it? You can't go back and watch the stuff that you used to watch. You know what I mean? You actually have to leave the issue, because when you go back into the problem and think, well, I've hypnotized myself, now I'm good. No, because they're still programming you and reprogramming you and reprogramming you. So every time you're watching, they're unprogramming what you just programmed, right? So you actually have to stay away from what you're trying to unprogram yourself from, or it's not going to last. Or you have to kind of really do it every day and listen to your audios every day that you've made for yourself, or whatever the case may be, and do all of that sort of stuff, right? So it's a bit different, because again, with repetition, it only works for a while, as long as it's still being repeated, right? And as soon as you stop, your brain's going to go back to what was familiar. So,
well, they had these tapes, and like in the 80s and 90s, that were like subliminal tapes, and they would have like music on the top, and they were supposed to have messages on the bottom, and you could not hear the messages at all. Do you think those kind of subliminal tapes actually work? Because a lot of people would say they didn't really work, they weren't effective. Do you think they made a difference or not?
I believe in some people they would have made a huge difference. Yeah, again, it depends on what your mind only does what you want it to do. So whatever the suggestions are within those tapes, if you didn't want to allow that into your life, it goes against all your moral standards, your values for yourself, your beliefs, and who you are as a human being. If it goes against that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And that's the problem, because if you believe you're not worthy of something, you're not going to get it. So if you're using those tapes to hypnotize you to be successful, but deep down inside you believe you're not worthy, it's not going to work. That's where you need me. That's where I come in, because now I can go in and find out why you believe you're unworthy, and I can change that for you. And then you can come out a superhero on the other side. You can be the person you want to be, right? But you can't be that person until you figure out why you're stuck. So,
well,
I think we all kind of, like I said earlier, we need each other.
Well, are most people stuck because of something their parents did? You know, like if their parents were harsh to them or said cruel things at different points. Is that where a lot of people's issues come from, is their parents?
Well, listen, I'm going to put it this way. Every single parent on this planet has messed up their child in some way, shape, or form. There's not one parent that is exempt from that. Okay. First of all, but we're not going to blame parents for everything, right? We're not, because it's how you understand the situation or the words they use towards you or whatever. So let's say the parent said a bunch of mean things to me, and we had the same parent, okay? And he said a bunch of mean things to me and said the same mean things to you. How I deal with it and how you deal with it would be two different things. So that's where it changes, right? I may turn around and become angry and fight back, right? Whereas you might sit back and go, oh, I'm not good anymore. Oh, I can't do it, right? And so there's those. Neither one of us are accomplishing anything anymore, right? We're not going in the direction where we should be, the healthy direction, but we're dealing with it in different ways.
So in terms of, are you working virtually mostly, or do you have people that are coming into your office? Or
I do have people that come to my office, far and few between. Since COVID, I just try to keep it online as much as possible, but people are welcome to come to my office if they want. I don't mind in person. It's fine.
Well, which one do you think, can you get the same results from a virtual that you can in person, or is it a little bit stronger in person because you're right there in the room with them? Or
actually, I'm finding, for me, it doesn't really matter, but I find that my clients, as long as they can hear me, they have a headset in or something, they can hear my words. It works better at home because they get to be relaxed. They're in their own environment. They're feeling safe. So when they open up to me, it's like they're sitting in their bedroom. They feel safe. They can tell me everything. In my office, it's more clinical. It's not their environment, right? So they might hold back a little bit more here. That's the only difference. It's just a comfort level that's different. So the only issue is if they can't hear me properly on audio, on internet, it makes it a little more difficult because you have to hear everything I say, and I have to hear everything you're saying as well. So as long as we've got good communication, it works better, I feel, over the internet.
so what has been one of your most dramatic transformations that you've been able to help someone with?
So there are two. There's one lady who was having severe depression. She was suffering some pretty bad depression. She couldn't leave her house really, like, grocery shopping, whatever, but she had anxiety every time she'd walk out the door, kind of thing, like severe anxiety. And it had been happening for years. So we had done a session and I hadn't heard from her. She was supposed to call me a week later and I hadn't heard from her for 6 weeks. And when I finally heard from her, she said, I moved to Spain. I went, what? She's like, yep, it worked. I took off, I moved to Spain and I'm living my best life. And I went, wow, that's fantastic. So that's one of them, because that one really shocked me. And the other was, now this gentleman, he had a stutter his whole life, and it was severe when I met him. It was very, very severe. Like every third word, it was a stuttering out the words. He was working with me as well. Before me, he had about 4 other RTT therapists and a bunch of therapists along the way coming up into his life. He came to me. We did 2 sessions together. And now, I'm not saying it's all me, it's everything working up to me, with me, but we did the 2 sessions together. And now he's able to command his stutter to go away when he needs it to go away. So when he's talking to someone like me, like a friend, it would be relaxed and he can stutter. When he's talking to clients, it's gone. You don't even know he has it. If you watch his videos online, you don't even see a stutter anymore. It's freaking fantastic. So that one as well is just an amazing transformation. That took a little bit longer. Like I said, it took me and 4 other RTT therapists to work with him, to each do a session with him. So it was a lot, but he finally learned to control it and to let it go. So that's a big one there. Yeah.
So before we close, is there any last word you'd like to leave with the audience?
Well, I'd love to invite anybody and everybody to come to me if they want that extra push forward, and to understand that we're very open-minded at my company. So we do invite everybody in. We're a little bit more aggressive. If you look at my website, it's rock and roll music and that sort of thing. It's not that soft, relaxing stuff. So, don't be put off by that. We're coming in at a different angle than all the other places, the 95% of other places that are very soft and loving and caring and not for people like me. So I just wanted to have a place for people like me who like to say it like it is, who throw a couple of colored words into their statements and that sort of thing. I wanted a place for people like us. And so if you're comfortable with what you saw of me today, please. All of the therapists are like me at my company. We've all been through a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. So we're therapists who understand. So there's nothing you can bring to us that we haven't experienced or lived by proxy through our clients, or heard by proxy through our clients, right? So we're people who understand. So this is a place where you can come and be relaxed, be yourself, enjoy everything, and just feel free to let go. And there's nothing that's going to scare us. So I guess that's what all I want to say.
And so since you do a lot of your work online, virtually anybody could come to you for assistance regardless of where they live.
Absolutely. We work with people all over the world. Now, that being said, there are places where hypnosis therapy are illegal. So we're not going to accept those people because I don't want to do any illegal activity, of course. But if it's legal in your town, if it's legal in your state or country or whatever, we're available to you, to anybody, anywhere, anytime.
What's the easiest
Come
way
on down and we're ready to help you.
What's the easiest way to reach you?
Okay, so www.hypnos.com. So hypnos, HYPNOS. So that's my website. You can get me on Facebook under Kris Carriere, KrisCarriere. And also Hypnos is also online. You can go on. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn. Where else am I? I'm making a YouTube channel now. So, I mean, there's a few things. We have a happiness journey group that we'd invite everybody to come and join. Even if you're not looking for hypnosis, we give free audios in there. I know you joined that group as well, and you're giving away some of your free audios in there as well. So that's perfect. I'd love that. And feel free to upload more, by the way. That was fantastic. So we invite everybody to join it's called the Happiness Journey group on Facebook. Come and join that. You can get to it from my website as well. And I guess that's how you can find me. I'm a little bit everywhere. Hypnos.com.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Jay. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thanks.